Hello, we are going to be traveling the world today. Oh my goodness. Hi, buenos dias, good morning, bonjour. I am so very excited for this video. If you can't tell by the huge smile on my face, I'm going to be traveling the world and I want to take you guys along with me. Our first destination, well, we're going to a couple of destinations today, but for my first round of countries, I did want to focus on South America because since I am a Latina, yes, I'm from the Dominican Republic. I live in the Dominican Republic. My dad is Salvadorian, and now I feel like I've given you too much information about myself. But the point is, my life, my family is rooted in Latin American culture. I thought it would be an incredible experience to do the Read Around the World challenge and start with South America. If this is your very first time hearing about this challenge, it's literally what the title states. It's this challenge that encourages you to read more diversely and to learn about different cultures, different authors. It's very exciting. You literally just have to read one book, or maybe even more, from every single country in the world. But for this first round, I thought it would be fun to, start with the 13 countries that are in South America. Through this challenge, you can learn about so many different traditions and lifestyles and ways of living and beliefs, different types of books that you would normally not pick up if it weren't for this challenge. I am so excited for this challenge, but I will admit, there's a little kernel of doubt inside of me, or this little nagging voice that says, girl, you're going to fail this so bad. Because since most of these books have been written in Spanish, I feel like it would be an insult to my people and basically to my mom. It would be not great if I read books that were originally written in Spanish and it's English translation. Like, why would I do that when obviamente yo sé habla español and I can understand it? I'm definitely scared, but I think that the excitement wins on this one because I am so ready to find new books, to learn about new cultures, and just dive right in. And of course, there are a couple of books here that I've actually been meaning to read for a while now. If you know, you know. I'm going to talk about it soon. And yeah, if you guys have any recommendations for this challenge, please do leave them down below. I am going to be starting with South America, but of course, my plan is to read from every single country in the world. So I would, definitely love some help if you guys have some recommendations on books by Hungarian authors or Chinese authors or South African authors. Leave them all down below. Thank you so much. I want to talk about my TBR for the 13 countries in South America. I thought it would be a good way to get me hyped up for this challenge and also share all of these beautiful and wonderful books that I've found. Without further ado, let's talk about the first book that I want to read, which comes from the country of Argentina. From Argentina. Okay, my Spanglish brain is not funcionando at this moment, but okay, let us continue. From Argentina, I found this one book that's actually been on my TBR for a very long time, and when I found out that the author is actually from Argentina, I was like, hold up, this is perfect, because I've been wanting to read Tender is the Flesh for so long, and it actually made its rounds around booktube, I'm pretty sure, because that's the first time that I ever heard of this book. Tender is the Flesh is written by Agustina Basterrica, and she is from Argentina. It's this horror science fiction book, and it sounds right up my alley. I think there's cannibalism involved. I don't know too much about this book, but from the snippets that I've heard and the small synopsis that I read, it sounds right up my alley. So I think this is a very strong contender. Of course, Tender is the Flesh is the translation. I'm not sure if it was originally written in Spanish, but if it is, I will be reading it in Spanish. If it isn't, I'll just go ahead and buy the English version. But for most of these books, I really want to try my best and read them in their original language because I can obviously understand it. So yeah. Argentina, Tender is the Flesh, Agustina Basterrica. Let's continue. Our next stop is Brazil, and there are so many wonderful picks to choose from, but I went for what is apparently one of the most famous classics from a Brazilian author, and that is Dom Casmurro. It is widely regarded as a masterpiece of realist literature. It is written as a fictional memoir by a distrusting, jealous husband. A brilliant retelling of the classic adultery tale, a sad and darkly comic novel about love and the corrosive power of jealousy. I don't know, there's just something about unreliable characters and unhinged behavior that just gets me. Like, it just tickles my brain in the best way possible. So I, of course, had to add this book immediately to my TBR. There's just something about toxic behavior that I love reading about. And yeah. From Bolivia, I actually found this one book that was also in my TBR for a very long time. But when I saw that this was written by an author that's from Bolivia, I was like, okay, I definitely need to give this a try. Woven in Moonlight. This is written by Isabella D01-120696, and it's a lush tapestry of magic, romance, and revolucion, drawing inspiration from Bolivian politics and history. This sounds incredible. It's basically this YA fantasy. I think it also has a little bit of romance, and can we just please appreciate the cover for this? It's beautiful, it's majestic, it's giving whimsical, and I feel like I could really enjoy this one. I've been on a fantasy kick lately, and this just sounds right up my alley. I recently read, which one was it? Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I loved it. And this one is giving me similar vibes. Maybe they're not alike at all, but I don't know, there's just something about this cover, and there's something about the synopsis that really calls to me, so I'm excited for this one. Next up, we're visiting Chile. Of course, one of the most iconic Chilean authors out there is Isabella Allende. My mom is the biggest fan of Isabella Allende. I think she has all of her books, both in English and in Spanish. She's a fangirl, to say the least. And Isabella Allende is basically this giant of magical realism. I remember seeing her in Jane the Virgin because Isabella Allende is Jane's favorite author and her biggest inspiration as well. And there's like this cameo where she gives her advice, and it's just really heartwarming. And Isabella Allende just seems like this wonderful person, but her books also seem incredibly well done and very insightful. And all of the things that I've heard from her books are just rave reviews, especially from my mom. Like, I'm telling you, my mom loves her. As soon as her newest book, Violeta, came out, my mom went running to the bookstore and she read it that same day. I cannot let this challenge go by without reading a book by Isabella Allende. I think because my mom loved it so much, I'm going to try my hand at reading Violeta. This epic story of Violeta del Valle, a woman whose life spans 100 years and bears witness to the greatest upheavals of the 20th century. I'm excited to see what all the fuzz is about with Isabella Allende because I just keep hearing about her, and she has so many books. I think one of her most famous books is Casa de los Espíritus, or like House of Spirits. I've heard so many people talk about that one, and maybe, I mean, my mom owns it as well, so I could read both, either, who knows. Next up is Colombia. I don't want to talk about this one because when I tell you that this next book is the most intimidating creature, the most intimidating beast in my life. I tried to read this one, I think like 5 years ago. My brain melted when I tried to read this in Spanish because there were so many unknown words to me. I think the writing of this author is very flowery, and he loves using words that I don't understand. It's literally a personal attack at this point. A few years back, I tried reading the English version of this book, and then I just felt like I was betraying my culture because I was like, why are you reading this in English when you could so easily read it in Spanish? It didn't feel good, my dude. So the book that I'm talking about, I can't believe I'm even like, okay. The book that I'm talking about is Cien Años de Soledad. This is the original copy that I tried to read. Yes. This is the first vez que escucho de esto. I am so sorry, but I was struggling so hard. There are so many words that I just don't know. Wow, it's just me underlining every single word that I don't understand. But basically, yes, this is the version that I tried to read 5 years ago, or like 5 to 6 years ago. And then this is the English version that I bought. It just felt sacrilegious to read this when I just, you know, when I had this. I don't know, there's some element of shame there that maybe I should dig into a little bit deeper, because like, why should I feel ashamed? But at the same time, I don't want to think about it too much because then I'll get sad. I believe that this is the perfect challenge to finally push myself to give my very best and try reading Cien Años de Soledad by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, because he is a Colombian author. He's probably one of the biggest Latin American authors ever in existence. He paved the road for so many other authors. I feel like this is just one of those things, a rite of passage that you need to go through. I don't know if 2023 will be the year that I read this, but please pray for me. Please send me your absolute best vibes. If you trust in me, if you believe in me, I feel like I can do it, but I'm gonna really need some support for this one. This is definitely the most intimidating book I have on this TBR. But I just have to do it. Like, if I don't push myself, I'm never going to leave my comfort zone, and that's just not something that I ever want to experience. So anyways, I feel like I've talked enough about this one. I haven't even mentioned what this book is about. Oh my goodness. 100 Years of Solitude tells the story of the rise and fall, birth and death of the mythical town of Macondo through the history of Buendia family. Inventive, amusing, magnetic, sad, and alive with unforgettable men and women, brimming with truth, compassion, and a lyrical magic that strikes the soul, this novel is a masterpiece in the art of fiction. Well, there we go. Hopefully I can agree after I read this book. Next up, we're visiting Ecuador. From Ecuador, we have this book that's called Jawbone, or I think in Spanish it's Mandíbula, and it's written by Mónica Ojeda. Sorry, she's not a sheep. Mónica Ojeda. She wrote Jawbone or Mandíbula. The first thing that drew me towards this book is the cover. I think, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, I am intrigued. I must know what this book is about. And then I saw that it's this horror, suspense, LGBT story, and I was like, okay, I'm sat. Interweaving pop culture references and horror concepts drawn from Herman Melville, H.P. Lovecraft, and anonymous creepypastas, Jawbone is an ominous multivocal novel that explores the terror inherent in the pure potentiality of adolescence and the fine line between desire and fear. I mean, come on, doesn't that sound incredible? Oh my goodness, like, I feel like I found a pot of gold. There are so many incredible books from Ecuador, but this one, it feels like something that I would love. There's just some type of magic in horror novels, like fiction horror novels. So I am very excited for Jawbone. It just sounds incredible. It sounds so good. Okay, this one is very exciting. Espérate. This one is from French Guiana. I was kind of struggling to find a good book, or like a book that I wanted to read from French Guiana, and then I came across Papillon. Papillon is actually a non-fiction. This is the only non-fiction that I have on my TBR, but I am so excited for it because I was reading the synopsis. Okay, calm down. Okay, whew. I was reading the synopsis and it sounds so much like the Count of Monte Cristo that I was like, how have I never heard of this book before? And that's when I knew that this challenge is just perfect for finding books that you would otherwise never hear about. I can't believe that I've never heard of this book, but it just sounds incredible. As I mentioned, it reminded me of the Count of Monte Cristo because Papillon is this story about the author, Henry Charrier. Yes, the author is convicted for a murder that he did not commit, and he is sentenced to life imprisonment in French Guiana. He becomes obsessed with one goal, and that is to escape. And it's basically his trials and tribulations, you know, failed attempts, different ways that he thinks about escaping, the different things that he has to do, the different things that he survives. Apparently, it remains one of the most incredible feats of human cunning, will, and endurance ever undertaken. I don't know, like, when I was reading the synopsis, and as soon as it clicked that this is so similar to the Count of Monte Cristo, there's just something inside me that was like, I need to read this. Even though the author is not from French Guiana itself, it does take place in the country, so I feel like it counts a tiny bit. If it doesn't count, I would love to hear some more recommendations from French Guiana authors, so if you have any, please leave them down below. But doesn't this book sound incredible. Doesn't this book sound amazing? So yeah, sorry, I got way too excited over Papillon, but hopefully it's as good as I think it will be. The next country that we're going to be traveling to is Guyana, and for this one I have My Bones and My Flute by Edgar Mittelholzer. This is a horror mystery historical fiction. Enough said. Only when he is on board the steamer halfway to their remote destination upriver in Guyana does Milton Woodsley realize that there is more to Henry Nevinson's invitation to spend time with his family in their jungle cottage. If somebody invites me to spend time in their jungle cottage, I don't think I'd say yes. I feel like, I don't know, there's something sketchy about that, but hey, they're artists. He thinks he's been invited to do some paintings, and he's like, hey, maybe I'll get some good money for this. But I don't know, there's just something about a jungle cottage that doesn't sit right with me. My Bones and My Flute is horror, it's historical fiction, it's set in Guyana, written by a Guyanan author. Guyanan author? An author from Guyana. I don't know, it just sounds incredible. Our next stop is Paraguay, and for this country I chose a book that's called Tarde de Abril, written by Carlos Martini. This is a fantasy crime story, and the synopsis is in Spanish. So I'm gonna try my best to translate it, but I'm not good at like on-the-spot translation, so bear with me. Tarde de Abril es una novela intrigante que atrapa la atención y la curiosidad del lector. De trama oh, okay, so it's a police story with ghosts that reappear. ¿Mantiene el suspenso? ¿Qué? Que reaparecen. ¿Qué? Tarde de Abril is this police story that has ghosts involved, and it talks about love, death, loneliness, and the necessity of human beings to forgive and be forgiven. I don't know, it sounds existential, it sounds spooky, it sounds like I'm gonna get some booze out of this. I don't know, it sounds good. The next country we're traveling to is Peru, and of course, one of the most iconic authors of all time, Mario Vargas Llosa. He is a Peruvian author. He has so many books that you can choose from, and I think that he has a book that's actually about the Dominican Republic. I'm pretty sure Mario Vargas Llosa has a book that's set on the Dominican Republic, and it talks about like our history. But you know, I learned enough about Trujillo in high school, like I don't want to relive that trauma. So I feel like I'm good for now. I didn't choose that one to read, but he does have another one that's called Who Killed Palomino Molero? As the title states, this is a mystery, it's a crime novel, and it just sounds like something that I would really enjoy. An entertaining and brilliantly plotted mystery. It takes up one of Vargas Llosa's characteristic themes, the despair at how hard it is to be an honest man in a corrupt society. So again, it's giving existentialism. Like, yes, we have this base plot of maybe a murder and trying to solve that mystery, but beneath it all, I feel like there's going to be some discussions of just humanity and the human condition. I am acquainted with Mario Vargas Llosa just because we did study him in high school for like a very brief period. We never read full books, but we did read like excerpts or, you know, just like very condensed versions of his books. Back in high school, I didn't really care for it, but at the point where I am now, I feel like I would really enjoy his writing, so hopefully I'm not mistaken. The next country is Suriname. When I was trying to find books from this country, I came upon this one book. I don't remember the name, but I'm going to be putting it up here. And it was, I think if I remember correctly, it's like this love story, but there's like slavery involved. When I was doing some research on this book, I found out that it's written by this white woman. And I'm like, my dude, what are you doing here? Like, why? Why? Yeah, maybe that's controversial. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I really want this challenge to be like stories told from the perspective of the people that are involved in the story. I don't necessarily want to read a book from a third party that's writing about somebody else's experience, if that makes sense. I don't know. So I chose a book that's called On a Woman's Madness. You know, that title off the bat, I'm like, I'm obsessed. I'm so sorry, but I need this. On a Woman's Madness, it's written by Astrid Romer, and it's an LGBT literary fiction. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, what else do you need to know? But if you do want to know more, let's read. A classic of queer literature that's as electrifying today as it was when it originally appeared in 1982. It tells the story of Noenka, a courageous black woman trying to live a life of her choosing. I'm Noenka, which means never again. Why did I just get chills? That sounds insane. That sounds so good. That sounds like I need to read this book right now. Oh my goodness, that sounds beautiful. Okay, Suriname. Very, very excited for this one. I think this is one of the ones that I'm most excited for because I don't know, there's something about the topic and I don't know, it just feels like I'm going to love this story. From Uruguay, I thought it would be interesting if I included a little bit of poetry in this TBR. So from Uruguay, we have this author that's called Cristina Peri Rossi, and she wrote this one poetry collection that's called Todo lo que no te puedo decir. I chose this one not necessarily because of the book, but because of the author. I was doing some research on Cristina Peri Rossi and I found out that she is one of Uruguay's feminist icons and also a defender of gay rights. And because of how vocal she was on her views and opinions, she was actually exiled from her country. So I feel like this is a woman that I want to support. This is the kind of energy that I need in my life, and I just feel like I need this. I need to read this poetry collection. I need to see how Cristina Peri Rossi is going to change my life. So yeah, I needed to have this book in my life. Our final destination, yes, this trip is coming to an end, but do not fret. This is our final destination for now. There will definitely be more trips in the future, but for now, our final destination is Venezuela, and the book that I chose for this is It Would Be Night in Caracas by Karina Sainz Borgo. Told with gripping intensity, this story chronicles one woman's desperate battle to survive amid the dangerous, sometimes deadly turbulence of modern Venezuela and the lengths she must go to secure her future. Those are all of the books that are on my TBR for a trip to South America, but I am open to recommendations not only from South America, but if you have any other countries in the world that you would want to recommend. You know, this may be ambitious, but I do want to see how many countries I can travel to this year, so I would really appreciate your help. I feel like this challenge could be so fun and so rich with your help, so I would really appreciate if you could leave some recommendations down below. I don't think I've ever pushed myself to try so many different cultures, and it's making me really excited. I think like throughout this whole video, I was just so once again excited to talk about all of these books and just see all of the potential that these books have to be 5 stars, to teach me something that I don't know. Is there a synonym for excited? Because I feel like I've used that word so much in this video, but every single time that I used it, I meant it, because this challenge just feels like I'm pushing the limits of my boundaries. I'm definitely stepping out of my comfort zone. We have some nonfiction, we have poetry, historical fiction, magical realism, and so many different topics and themes that are going to be explored in these books, and I am so excited to, you know, just hop on an airplane and go to these different countries with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this little look at my South American TBR. Once again, any recommendations are welcomed in the comments below. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment. It really helps my channel out. I also have a Patreon where I post exclusive content. I host reading sprints, monthly challenges, and readathons. So if that is something that would be interesting to you, the link is down below as always. I would love to have you join my army of premium simpers. It's honestly such a good time, and we always get up to the craziest of ideas and the craziest of things, and I would love to share that with you guys. Once again, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're having the loveliest of days or nights whenever you're watching this, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Hey Jimmy, you nice, keep going.